Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so here we are. So the topic of this talk today is going to be about analytics, and I hope that I will give you just some ideas, just some orientation, a little bit kind of some navigation system at your hand, because I've seen with the questions Lou asked that there are just a few founders here and not very much of analytics folks, but I believe that with what I'm going to present today, I hope that you will go away and you will take away just some 2-3 ideas and notions about analytics and how you have to perceive digital analytics and how to tackle it in the future. So actually, I'm working for Spreadshirt AG. Spreadshirt is a platform for creative apparel. So you can bring up your own ideas. You can upload designs. You can purchase designs. We have 3 different point of sales on our platform, and you can go to our marketplaces. You can use our merchandising options, so you can become a shop partner with us. We offer free logistics, free marketing on our from our side, and you can personalize from a range of more than 100 different product types, actually. And Spreadshirt is a company that is 15 years old this year, and we are ending up with a huge growth this year. So we will, for the first time, have more than 100 million euros in revenue, which is quite a big success. We are a global company. That means that we have factories all over in Europe and in the United States. We have offices all over Europe. We have offices in the United States. We are shipping to 18 countries, to more than 200 countries. We have websites in 12 languages, more than 500 employees, and we have a base of more than 70,000 active selling partners, which grows quite well currently. I'm with the company since 2011, so actually 6 years, which is quite some time if you think in terms of startups. But actually it was very, very interesting so far to look how the company grows and how we get profitable, how we stay profitable, how we actually get good growth over the years, and how to see how the organization evolves. So this is also part of the analytics department, because actually analytics helps changing the organization, and actually analytics has to change over the way with the people, with the organization, and with the different challenges that we have. So actually I wanted to ask the same questions. I don't know if you guys know Kahoot.it. I wanted to know a little bit more about the audience. This is here. Can we just get out your telephones for a moment, and we will do a small game. This is just a small survey. I want to know a little bit more about you now that now that you know something about me. There's a gaming pin. You go to Kahoot.it, you enter just a random name or your name, just as you like it. And then you can play the game with me. Naughty nicknames beware. Some more players. Don't be shy. Yes. We're gonna collect just a few more minutes. Some 3 players. Some more. So we can see actually who's in the audience. And what are you interested in? Oh yes, now it's getting bigger. Okay, while other people sign up, I will ask the first question. I will start with, come on. Yeah. So 2 questions. Are you ready? Who's in the audience? So now you have to select if you are a founder, analyst, an analytics manager, or any other. 10 answers. We have 20 seconds left. Take your time. 2, 1, and go. Time's up. So we have, oh wow. So actually this is going to be really instructive today for you. 14 people from other domains, 6 founders, 2 analysts and 2 analytics manager. That's good. I will find that 4 people that work in analytics. So just one more question. How experienced are you in analytics? I don't want to talk about things you already know. Absolute beginner. I have a notion. I have a role. Yeah. I'm an expert. Wow. I have a notion. Okay, good. So I hope that I will refresh your notion today. Thanks very much for participating. So now we know, actually you also know who's in the audience, which is quite good. So let's take it away. Actually, I have prepared 5 topics today. 5 things that I think that are important for you in order to get a better notion about analytics. The first thing is that there is a challenge with digital data because digital data is different. It's not the same as other different other data like financial data or whatsoever, stream data or something. It's digital data. We will talk a little bit about startup KPIs. We will talk about the meaningless KPIs, segmentation, something about analytics, and in the end you will have the time to ask some questions. So actually what I very often hear is that people say web analytics is hard. So many folks come to me, hey Tim, this is so hard. You asked me to do the analysis on my own. It was so hard. I didn't get there. It's also hard. I don't get it actually. So many folks in the company come to me and they say they claim that this is actually that way, and I say, well, I'm not sure if it's really hard. It actually needs a little bit more of orientation. So you just have to have a little bit more of a navigational system in your mind and on your table before you tackle analytics. That's actually the thing. It's not harder than any other discipline. It is just, it requires a little bit more of orientation and organization in your work, okay? So actually, why digital data is different, there are 3 things that I want to present today. First of all, nearly all digital data is stream data, which means that we have digital data coming from high volume sites with lots of different pages. So actually the collected information is huge, which also leads to the term big data. Okay, we've heard this term now for almost 10 years. And it's just huge. And if you try to load this data feed into a database, it might happen that this database might just choke. So you might fail by loading it into it unless you have the right infrastructure, unless you have some Amazon maybe cloud services or huge infrastructure. It might be well. Or so if you have a technology solution or if you have a logical solution that you can arrange the data in a way that makes it efficient, so you can do this. But overall, you have to keep in mind that this data is stream data, and it's not really it's very granular. And the other thing is that we all are used to work with transaction data, which means that transactional data is something that always adds up. So if you count 1 + 1, it's 2, 2 + 2 is 4, and so on. And we are very used to that kind of data from financial data, for example, from orders, from invoices, from payments, from our controlling department. We are really used to it. And when we go for the first time into digital data, we actually are confronted with page rank analysis, for example, where we see that the sum of single page visit values is bigger than the total sum of visits, which is actually not intuitive at all to all these people. And they will come back to your desk, they will come back to my desk, and they will say, hey Tim, this is wrong, your analysis is wrong, it's not right, because it doesn't add up. So there's a problem with your tool or something. This is something you have to keep in mind, so not to come to the desk of your analytics manager or anybody else. Then, why you don't see very often digital analytics and statistics together is that we have digital data coming from websites which also have a structure. And this is a very important thing that you have to keep in mind, that all the websites are connected and one flow is leading to the next one, or one visitor goes to the next one, because there is actually something that that makes it possible to go there. There is a structure, there's a home page, people come in via category pages, subcategory pages, go to the checkout, so there's a predefined path in here. And it will be a problem when you want to apply statistical methods in this context, because when you do some correlation analysis, yes, you will find that there is a correlation between the category page and the subcategory page, because obviously, yes, there is a button that leads to this page. So actually, the classical statistical ways doesn't really apply in this context. The correlation, the regression techniques, you will not see very often that digital analysts work with that kind of techniques. You will more see them with in business analytics, with the financial data, or in other contexts you will see it. And lastly, there is the high cardinality issue, meaning that actually we have a lot of distinct values in the data. This is also something that is very confusing for someone who starts working with digital data in the beginning. You have one value for each visitor. You have values from different pages. You have all values with different flavors also. That is, for us, for example, at Spreadshirt, we have a global websites, 12 different domains, so we have different campaigns, different keywords, different languages, different IDs, different timestamps. So actually it's a huge mess of data, and if we don't know where to go or what we want to find out, we will be lost in this thing. So actually, in the first thing, you have to keep in mind that there are a lot of dimensions here in this area which might create confusion, and this is all about the data. If you don't know how the data is structured, how the data is working, you will be lost. So the high cardinality issue leads also to something I will refer to a little bit later on. It's that we will try to look at different segments. So actually, when you have, for example, different page groups and campaigns, you will see that you have a lot of different pieces or chunks of data, but what you actually want to know is what are the different segments they're all referring to, or they all have in common. Yeah. So actually, we want to go one way from traffic streams, so from traffic data to customer data, which is the way directly to segmentation. We will talk about that a little bit later. So what you have to keep in mind is that you can't win the game, actually, the analytical game. You cannot boost your analytical skills if you don't know a little bit about the pieces that are inside. And there's a lot of different pieces we've seen. High cardinality issues, data streams, and so on. So I want to go a little bit into startup KPIs, as I've seen there are some founders in the audience. Actually, when we want to work with analytics, we have to keep in mind that there are different stages of an organization that it is going through along the way. It starts with an initial phase where you're really focused on customer acquisition. This is the first moment. You spend a lot of money on SEM, for example, to acquire actually people, to get some visibility at Google. You want to have some SEO visits. So you focus on, do I do this right? Do I do the acquisition part right here? You look at bounce rates, abandonment rates, exit rates. You look at your page funnels. You look that the CPO isn't wrong or isn't too high. The cost per order. Yeah. So you don't want to run out of money. And all what you do is like simple and manual. It's focused on past. You're really starting. You're trying to gain a little bit of traction and speed for your website. And after this phase, you go to an intermediate phase where you focus on consolidation. Your KPIs change also. You're more focused on lifetime value. You're focused on cohort behavior. So you actually get more advanced in your idea of analytics. And all the buzzwords in the analytics sphere start to appear. Cohort behavior, customer segmentation, recency frequency models. This goes also in direction of the business intelligence part. Micro conversions are important. How actually do people go from one page to the next? You want to know about it. Where do they stuck? Where do they go further? And here you also start to change your approach. It's semi-automated. It's focused on path, and you start to do a little bit of prediction. Okay, so actually your analytics department is going to change a little bit along the way, along the different phases. Until you go to a sustainability phase where you really focus on growth. You are more stable now. You can now focus on how many people come back, what's the repeat buyer rate. So you're now more focused on the customer actually. Before, in the beginning, you were focused on traffic. And now actually the customer appears in your data and you're really interested now, okay, what's the customer lifetime value by sensible subunit, so you get more granular in your idea. You also change your approach. You really focus on prediction, what's going to be next quarter, 2 quarters, next year, and so on. And it's going to be semi-automated. And what is going to guide you through all these stages is that you want to gain a broad understanding who visits and why they visit. Okay. So the data is very complex, we've seen this, very high cardinal data, but along the stages of your startup, you're actually going into the direction to understand who visits and why they visit your website. This is the ultimate goal. This is also something that's going to guide us when we go to KPIs now, when we want to know what's actually about the KPIs. There's a lot of talk about KPIs, I know, and it's not the most interesting topic, but I will just want to guide you a little bit around the pitfalls of the KPI discussion. And the claim here is that most KPIs alone actually have no meaning at all. So when you go around in your organization and you talk with people, you will see that people treat page views, they look at number of visits, they look at time spent on site, time spent on page, exit page, page depth. So they have a whole bunch of different KPIs they're looking at. But the problem is that these KPIs don't help you to gain a broader understanding who visits and why they visit. Okay? So actually the goal that you want to follow along the path for your startup to get actually to this growth phase where you understand your customer, you will not get there if you just look at these KPIs. That's the problem. And it often leads to bizarre conversations. I've registered some for you, just some examples. Our page views are up. So very often you might hear this, page views are up. Okay. Well, the new design engages our users. Some design person would say this, okay. The other one would say, I would rather say the new design hinders product finding. Now who's right? Both sound logical. Yes, the design is better, but yeah, product finding. So you don't know, you actually don't know. Yeah, it doesn't help. Next thing is our conversion rate is down. This is really, I mean, you all have heard of it, right? Your boss or your CEO is coming to you and says, okay, this morning conversion rate is down. So what's going to happen? Our prices are too high. Probably, yes, possible. Or SEO brings low quality traffic. So also perfect explanations for why a conversion rate might be down, but actually 3 people talk without getting there, without getting to an end of the discussion. You will not really understand. You cannot dive into it. You cannot understand what about the customer. So some some KPI conversion rate is down. Okay, this morning, so what? Yeah, so what? Our site satisfaction is falling. Site satisfaction. We have a terrible page design. You will hear this. You will hear this. We have a terrible page design, yes. And then from the other side of the organization, you will hear our help section is finally in good use. And the best thing, the help section is in good use, and who uses the help section has a better conversion rate. Now that's the thing. This is actually where you have to jump in, where you have to take the lead. Now, okay, this is quite the thing of the talk. Yeah, you have to take the lead. You have to come in and say, okay, guys, I'm gonna help you out a little bit. First of all, discussions on basis of these KPIs are useless, because actually it always depends on the perspective from where you look. Yeah, one guy is saying, okay, we have maybe prices are too high, or yeah, the design is not good. Okay, so you will always have perfect explanations. Both seem to be right. Both maybe are right, but you will not come to a good end or to a good decision. So actually, that's the moment where you have to start working with segmentation, the second phase. Yeah, you have to start thinking about segmentation. I'm going to present you just the so just the simple things. This is really the simplest way of doing segmentation. Something I constantly don't see around me when I get reports from other people. But I will tell you, and you can try at home if you do this. So this is the first dimension, is actually to decide whether you are on a PC or a mobile device. It's not very difficult. Yeah, you just have to remind yourself that when you look at people, when you look at users, always think that mobile usage is different from desktop usage. Yeah? If someone is waiting for a bus, he might be more likely to bounce or to search for a product without buying something than if he's sitting at home on a Sunday evening on his desktop PC. Yeah, so it's different actually. So when you bring up KPIs, conversion rates, it might bias if you don't segment on this first dimension. Second is, think of your acquisition channel. Actually, each acquisition channel has a different mental model behind. I don't know if you are familiar with the mental model idea. Actually, mental models mean that that behind SEM you have targeted visitors. And if they come, for example, at a specific point in time for a specific search, very broad, for example, they might not really know what they are looking for. And if you discover that they have that kind of thinking without being very precise, without looking for a lion on a T-shirt, for example, which is very precise, they will be more likely to bounce. Okay, so actually you can start segmenting by mental models. And by acquisition channels, also your data, and you will understand better if a specific conversion rate or a specific bounce rate is helpful or not. Yeah. Next thing is entry points. This also helps for the mental model. Actually, everything combined forms a specific type, a specific customer type. Yeah, so it's very important that you start thinking about customer types, because this is the way we want to understand why somebody comes to the website and who comes to the website. This is actually the ultimate goal. Then the difference is time, season. People during Christmas time, for example, they might be more pressed to buy something. Conversion rate goes up, and yes, conversion rate goes down after the Christmas boom. And also you might see for any other events, for St. Patrick's Day, for Father's Day, for summer holidays, for example, you will see that conversion rate will drop afterwards along the way. Then lastly, the degree of education. Actually, if someone has already visited a website, he already knows it, he already has seen it. It makes a huge difference if you look at first-time visits or if you look at returning visits. Returning visits actually are more educated than people who have seen it for the first time. People who have purchased something they are more educated in terms of your website on what's happening on a website than those people that have actually never bought anything. Yeah. So think of these kind of things, these kind of basic segments, in order to go through your data. There's even more. Targeting customers in these traffic segments is still difficult. So if you continue working on this kind of segments, which might happen for a very, very long time, you might miss something. And I'm talking now about the sweet spot. So what we actually want to find is the sweet spot between traffic and customers. Okay, we're looking for the moment where traffic, where we detect customers, actually real people, real customer segments. Yeah, for example, people who want to buy a gift for someone. On our website, it's very frequent when we see someone who's coming in from a Father's Day campaign. Well, he's very likely to buy a gift for his father. Okay, so actually we're transforming now incoming traffic into customers. And this is actually the moment where we see a little bit more clearer who our customers are, or this is the first moment where we think about it. And actually, a first way of doing this on your website is to define specific segments, specific event segments. Is not to go like along different stages of maybe, of, for example, the first time and return visits, or different acquisition channels. Is to look, okay, what stage did the user on your website actually reach? Did he bounce? So did he actually do nothing? Then you can take all these ones away. If he already started to explore a little bit around your service, you can say, okay, if he's seen, for example, 2 or more sites from your website, he's actually already exploring, so his degree of education is going to increase a little bit. Or you're going to see that he's going to own an item or an alternative goal. He's going to look at, for example, a formula where he can sign up for something. He's trying to sign up, or he's signing up for a newsletter. So depending on what your main goal is, where you want to go, you can try to register it on a cookie basis, for example. And when he comes back, you know that this guy already tried to sign up for something. So he's actually more educated than any other person. So this is actually how you build within all this granular data some customer segments. Ultimately, it's also important to know if someone has purchased, if they have reached the final stage, so you can take them away. So another way of looking at segmentation is the A/B testing. How many of you actually already worked with A/B testing? Okay, this is so a lot of people, or some of you already have worked with segmentation, A/B testing. Actually, you want to test out your hypothesis. Do I have to change the color of the button? Do I have to change the design, the layout, the strategy I'm following? Does this really apply to the people I acquire from the different marketing channels? I have to test it out. I have to test my hypothesis. And A/B testing helps here, but actually A/B testing has some pitfalls. I will dive now into the pitfalls that are around A/B testing, and leave the A/B testing strategy to you. So actually, why A/B testing is very important is that we are very good at pattern recognition. So we always have an idea in mind of how something has to look like. Okay, so we think that it's right. No, this button has to be like not rectangular, but maybe just a circle, or it has to be blue. Or I don't know, we have to take out this page at all. So actually, when we look at the data and when we try to make up some hypothesis, we're in danger. Actually, we're in danger looking at patterns that actually don't exist. And also, when we look at the data, we always tend to say that we actually need more data, because it's It's not enough. We don't have enough information to actually decide on it. But when you go down this road, it might help to have more data, but more data also creates more problems. Why is that? Actually, when you look at the significance, the idea of significance, is everybody familiar with the idea of significance? Statistical significance, that you want to make a decision and you can, on a specific level of security, say that something is different. Two versions are different from each another. Actually, this is a very helpful tool in this A/B section, but it doesn't solve all problems, unfortunately. Let me give you an example. So I ran a test with data. I took 100,000 observations, and I created two segments, 50-50. Okay, and without any differences, I ran these tests, and I selected a p-value of actually 0.1, which is like a security level of 90%. And then I ran simulations. And now the question is, what will happen in terms of significance? So significance is the ultimate value that you want to use in order to decide if two versions of your design are actually equal in terms of performance, or if there's one that is doing better. So I can tell you one thing, that a conversation will happen with your boss, and he will come and he will say, the test result this morning was significant after one day. And then your boss says, I knew it, we can end the test. So this is actually not how you're going to treat significance. Okay, like you run a test, and then after one day you see, okay, it's significant. But yeah, this is not what's going to happen. But it's happening. It's happening all over. That people actually are so curious to look into the test results, and after one day they will look into it and they will say, well, I knew it, it's significant, we can end it, and you feel like it's true, it's actually what you thought is true. But actually what happens in the test in the meanwhile is that after 98 simulations with the 100,000 observations, I see that 76% were ever significant. So out of the 98 simulations, we had almost 76 simulations that were at one point in time significant. Yeah. So if your boss comes in after one day and asks you, what about the test? You should say nothing. We will not look at it, because if you see a significance, it might be just one in between, in the meantime. Yeah. It might be significant this morning. It might not be significant tonight. Okay, so actually it doesn't change. And if you further run the simulations, 234, it doesn't change. We still have 76%. And after almost 2,000, we have 77% with significance. So actually we're very likely to see significance while running a test, while testing our different versions. But we should not actually interact in the test before it's ended. Okay, before, for example, the software says no, it's fine now, you can end the test, which is very likely after, like, depending on how much data you have, but maybe after a week or something. So another thing concerning the patterns that we actually see is going back to this structure that we have in the website. So actually, when you have the website, you see the structure, and when you're doing A/B tests, you also have to keep in mind that actually the website follows a specific structure. Yeah. So actually, keep in mind that something that we want to see in the test result might also be biased by the structure that is inherent of the website. And then lastly, actually there's the Simpson paradox. Everybody knows the Simpson paradox? No, okay. Actually some patterns are hidden in the data, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so you might run a test along different countries. So one day we ran a test in different countries, in, for example, Germany, United Kingdom, France, Spain, Italy, Sweden, And actually we wanted to see how conversions improved, okay? So we looked at the different countries, and we had two groups, and we see that actually the conversion rate for version A was about 3.5%. For version B, we had a conversion rate of 4.2%. Now, if we just not look at the different groups, if we just put them together, we see another result. We see actually that version B is performing worse than version A, which has a conversion rate of 4.4%. Now that's strange. I see you struggling with this. It's actually that if you create relative numbers in the groups, or if you create a relative number from a bigger group, makes a difference and might invert the result. Okay, just keep this in mind. If you break down the data into different groups where you ran an A/B test, yeah, you might see different results depending on how you look at the data. Yeah, it's really important. A lot of people come to my desk and say, "Hey, this is not consistent. I think something's wrong." Then you just say, "Okay, well, if we make a sum here over this group, if we then sum up in that way, well, we see it's actually the same data, but it's not going to the same result." So trends can disappear when groups are combined. There are always more groups within the data, even if we don't see them, even if we, for example, only look at the overall result. We just have to keep in mind that there are groups that we might not know of, but they perform in different ways, depending on how we look at it. Okay, so lastly, this is the last slide already. Actually, in terms of analytics tools, I know that you might all use different tools. We might use a different tool, and in terms of web analytics, it's really important to have a tool that you maintain. It takes a long time to build a good tool, to fit it to the website. It's a very customized work that you have to do, that the analytics team has to do. But ultimately, if you succeed in doing this, you will be able to see flows and acquisition channels and funnels, and you can also use a tag management system. Are you all familiar with tag management systems? Do you know what this is? No? Okay, it's just a technological way of making it easy to maintain the system. You can do raw data analysis, then you can apply the statistical techniques. Maybe if you go a little bit out of the digital data sphere, you can also use open source solutions if you have the time. It's very cost intense, and you need a lot of know-how to do this. Then you can do behavioral analytics in order to understand the website usage. You can use session recording tools. You can actually do anything you have to do in order to improve conversion rate on your website. Form abandonment is very popular. Voice of customer. This is also a topic that you could look into if you want to dive a little bit further into the analytics sphere. Voice of customer is a very important topic in order to understand why customers visit. Why does someone actually come to your website? Or if you want to use a live chat and directly ask the customer, why are you here today? Or what are you looking for? Can we help you? This brings a lot of information about customer success also. So if you see that your website doesn't get a lot of success or traction, live chat might be helpful in this context. A/B testing, we talked about it. Improve micro conversions. Look at different segments. Think of the Simpson paradox and the different patterns that are in the data. Test your hypothesis, your design, your layout. And you can also use simple tools like spreadsheets, databases, statistical software. Actually, spreadsheets are very helpful for one simple reason, is that everybody has a spreadsheet program on his computer. So if you are a geek, showing very very nice results, very nice visualizations. It might be very interesting to look at it, but you cannot share, you cannot interact within the organizations. So this is why spreadsheets are very interesting, because if you have a spreadsheet, you can always forward it to anybody. He can open it and he can play with the data. It's what you see is what you get, actually, and it's a very big advantage if you want to communicate with your stakeholders. Lastly, don't forget to create a good analytics culture and a good analytics team. Keep your people in the company. If you train someone, if you lose him after 6 months, after 12 months, it's a shame. You have to start all over again. Have to start all over again with the culture. It's going to be hard. It takes time. So if you have people that actually want to work with your product, with your service, with your company, try to deliver a good culture. It makes the people happy, makes them stay longer. Yeah, so this is actually a summary slide I created. We have the digital data challenge. Digital data is different. Startup KPIs, the different phases we were talking about. Meaningless KPIs. Don't end up in meaningless discussions with your stakeholders. Segmentation, which is very important to understand who is on your website and why. The analytics tools. And yeah, if you want to read something, here are some nice books. If you have some time on a Sunday, drink a glass of wine and read a book. Yeah, I think here we are. That's it.
Hey, thanks first of all for the presentation. Do you have any recommendation for a dashboard to design if you're just basically a part-time analyst in the company? Like something that sums everything up that you showed in the almost last slide, where you can customize your own dashboard that's a little bit different than what analytics is providing you.
Do I understand you right that you want a technological solution that helps you doing this?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, so reporting is another part of the analytics sphere. I would say is it takes some time to get really get to know what your stakeholders want. We're working with Adobe Analytics, which has improved a lot over the last years. But actually, when you want to work with dashboards, it's really important that you actually think of the different dimensions. Yeah. Think of a tool that helps you to break down your dashboard into these dimensions. Yeah. So that, for example, if you want to provide some information for on a checkout topic, for example, yeah, so you want to analyze as a part-time analyst, what's the performance of the checkout. Try to make sure that you can segment very well on devices, on dimensions, and try to also make sure that you understand the question of your stakeholder. Sometimes the stakeholder doesn't understand the question himself, so you should have to coach him. But yeah, I don't know. We work with Adobe Analytics, but I think any tool can do this if it's fine, if it's very well tweaked in terms of segments.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim, too. Just wanted to ask, obviously, I would love to have such a great analytics team like Spreadshirt has, but I can't afford it, yeah? So what would be your advice, how to build it, like how to build a first setting for your typical online company having apps, website channels, Facebook, all that stuff, to have a starting place from where you can then grow.
How to build the team in the organization.
How to build the analytics setting that gets you going without being able to hire experienced people and start a team.
Yeah. It's a very important question, and this is also the reason why I put the different stages of the startup. Yeah. So if I hear right, you are maybe in the first stage of the organization, where you have to focus on maybe acquisition. So actually, you can start building anything around acquisition for your team. Yeah, you can look at costs, which are very important for you, not to run out of costs. So I would start with so not to worry a lot about the complex things like cohort or customer lifetime value. So actually, anything from stage 2 and 3, you can just put it away. Yeah, the most important thing for you is to survive, is to understand how is my acquisition working, and you need experts for that stage. Yeah, for that part, some SEM managers, a good SEO manager, or you have to look for that kind of skills where you can get these skills. Where can you do some workshops around search engine optimization or keywords or search engine marketing? Does this answer your question?
I hope for something easier, but
Yeah, it's a long way. It's a long way. There's no such thing. Yeah, you have to. Upstairs is always with the stairs. Yeah, there's no elevator, unfortunately.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your talk. I have one question about how you do it at Spreadshirt. When it comes to especially A/B testing, but other analytics, like teams having hypotheses about something that works better than before, how do you support them, and could you describe the process? Like, are you part of that team, or do they come to you, or how does it work?
Yeah. So actually, we do A/B testing for a long time. Luckily, I'm with the company for 6 years. So we started for 4 years ago, and with different people. And actually, the most important thing is to make clear what the strategy is, and to write it down and to make it public and accessible to everybody. Yeah. So this is really important, that you have a clear way of defining your idea and your hypothesis. One thing that helped us, we're using Jira, so Confluence, and one thing that helped us to really start off with the hypothesis and with the question is to create formulas in Jira. Actually, when you want to create an A/B testing ticket, yeah, you have to fill in the formula. So actually, there's no such A/B test that has no ticket and that has no hypothesis in there. So that already brings the people to think about what they want to test and not like do testing a little bit around. The other thing is that you need a strategy. You need to look for a global optimum, not for local optimums. Yeah, you might end up in some local optimums, but you have to assure that you're actually on your way towards a global optimum within your site. And this is by doing a strategy. So actually, each team, each product team, is making a strategy, what it's going to do in the next quarter, and it makes clear what it is. And then there's the tickets. I can watch the tickets. I can follow up. I can very easily understand the hypothesis, the idea. And in the end, when they want to do this, they come to me and they make sure that there's no Simpson paradox in the data. And me or my team, we will look over it. But what is really important, and I want to highlight that, is that you can do a good analysis, you can do a good testing plan and a good ticket service and have a great team. But if the technology doesn't fit, if you find some hints that the data is corrupted by wrong pixels or wrong cookies, you just have to restart the test. Yeah. So that's something I didn't mention, but it's a huge part of the work, that you actually, when you start working with data, when you start touching data, you verify if the data is clean, if it's really good quality. Yeah. So do some tests. Is there some craziness in there or not? Does it look really clean? And then you take your decisions.
So from what you just said, I would interpret that you put a lot of effort also in people being able to read the data, right? So how did you make sure that there's a certain level of data literacy in your company? Because it seems that you're only like the final expert who checks out on a Simpson paradox, but people are in general able to read the data, right? Is that right?
Hopefully. I mean, it's a long way. You have to, first of all, you have to make sure that the people stay. Yeah. So if you start explaining to someone something and he's leaving 6 months later, or he's changing his role, you will not end up with data literacy. So this is the first thing that you really have to make sure. You cannot make sure that somebody stays, but just keep in mind that really that's the way. And we were looking for kind of ambassadors in our company that really understand. So before somebody comes to me, or I'm also part of a team, but before somebody really consults me with something, there are people before me in the company that are really experts in the same domain as me. And so you kind of have to clone yourself. You have to reproduce yourself, share your insights, teach the people. We have regular update sessions every month, teaching the people about the data, how to treat it, how to read it. And for those who are really talented, we want them to be the ambassadors in the company. So actually, that's the way we I do this. I can make them stay.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and a round of applause again.
Que la famille